So let's shine a light into the underlying psychological and social principles of our struggle with being authentic. There's obviously no problem with being accommodating, kind and supportive and helpful of others per se. It only becomes an issue if it comes at the cost of our own integrity and well-being. So that's what we're talking about. So, first principle. From a child's point of view, parental disapproval and rejection, punishment and withdrawal of affection are deeply threatening and engender feelings of rejection, anxiety, sadness, badness, resentment. And when we are very young, we are clearly not equipped to deal with these feelings, so we repress them into the unconscious realm whilst maintaining the best possible connection with our parents. In this way, we are unconsciously conditioned to fit in and get along the best we can within our family, our culture and our tribe, so to speak. In short, when young, we are wired for connection, which means to avoid rejection and disapproval as best as we can. And very clearly, as children, we are not in a position to say to our parents, look, the way this family operates doesn't work for me. Can we have a talk about this? So in the light of this power imbalance, we develop what we call a conditioned personality. This is neither good nor bad, it is just what happens for most of us as our socialization process. And here comes the second principle. James Hollis, my favorite Jungian writer, talks about this in his thought-provoking book, Finding Meaning in the Second Half of Life. If anyone is interested, I will reference the book in the description below. And James Hollis provocatively states, being nice ceases to be nice in adulthood. In fact, it becomes a liability. Being nice can have ugly consequences for our emotional and physical well-being. Reflecting on this, when being compliant and nice repeatedly comes at a cost of our self-respect and healthy boundaries, we not only violate our personal integrity, but also give away our authority and personal responsibility. In other words, as adults, we are called to grow out of our childhood conditioning of being good and compliant. Life calls us to grow ourselves up. This means we are required in our adult years to evolve our conditioned personality into a more authentic way of being. And we are encouraged to become who we really are, rather than who we were conditioned to be within the context of our childhood experiences. And here comes the third truth and life lesson. Life has a habit of pushing us to outgrow our overlearned, compliant and conditioned responses. I must admit I've painfully experienced this many times in my life. And I'm sure many of you have too. I share an example with you. Some years ago, I experienced a serious emotional and physical burnout, as a result of which I was unable to work for some months, 3 to 4 months. I was very unwell and unable to recover my energy and vitality for a long time. This was really scary, but it pushed me to realize that I needed to make some fundamental changes in my life. I had overspent my energy resources for years, juggling my professional life, motherhood and other demands and responsibilities. And through this experience I understood even more deeply that being authentic is about taking full responsibility for my exhaustion and the decisions I needed to make. In my mind, there was no benefit in blaming myself or anyone else for my troubles. The outcome of this health crisis was up to me. We can easily blame our managers, the organizations we work in, maybe our partners, maybe our past or circumstances. But have you noticed that blaming keeps us stuck? And again, from a child's perspective, it makes total sense that we would look to others, because as children we are dependent on external guidance and authority figures. And here comes the fourth truth and life lesson. As adults, it doesn't make sense to blame others. As adults, we are fully responsible for ourselves, our emotional states, our response to what life brings to us. And this is actually a harsh truth and life lesson. Because stepping out of our childhood conditioning and taking full responsibility for ourselves is not easy. When we dare to step out of our powerless childhood programming, we often experience anxiety and even panic, doubt and insecurity. Most of us experience this when we contemplate and dare to make significant changes in our lives. This could be the ending of a marriage we have outgrown, leaving a job, or telling a colleague that we don't feel comfortable with the way they speak to us anymore. Could be big changes or small changes. The good news is that as competent coping adults, we can learn to manage our feelings. We can learn to speak our mind and negotiate our relationships. And we can leave if this is what we need to do. The important lesson is that vulnerability and authenticity go together. We need to learn to build a supportive relationship with our vulnerable feelings, whilst growing out of our childhood past conditioning, and whilst daring to reveal and uncover and discover our authentic selves. This is the psychological challenge of growing up and becoming and being authentic. It is scary, yes, and liberating at the same time. Learning to become authentic is truly an act of courage in the face of our childhood conditioning. But the good news is that understanding these 4 fundamental principles is half the battle of overcoming our inhibition and being more daring, willing and able to express and act on what is true and meaningful to us.